Hello, it's Lou Collins, and today I've got a new Craftworld template for you. This is the diagonal double fold card template. Now this one, rather than being a card as such, it's a bit more like a little notelet or a little message or a little gift card holder, something like that. So it's a little bit different. It's something good for you to have in your crafty arsenal or up your sleeve if you just need a little note for somebody. There's other ways you can create this as well, so you can actually make it into a gift card holder quite easily by gluing some areas down. I will talk you through those as well as I go through. Now I've chosen to use my scraps for this, so I've got this lovely pearlescent green cardstock that's been sitting in my scraps box for a while that I've been wanting to use, and it actually just about fits on the template there, so I'm going to use that. And then I've taken some printables. So these are downloadable printables from, I think it was Die Cutting Essentials, a recent magazine. And I just think that this gorgeous lilac paper goes really well with the green because there's similar greens within the leaves. And we've got sentiments here that I'm going to probably die cut one of the circles out from. So let's get started with the template first of all. As always, I've got my trusty temporary stick adhesive here. So this one is not a permanent adhesive, it is repositionable, which is usually the word they use for temporary, repositionable, so you can peel and stick a few times if you want to. That just means I can stick my template to my cardstock, and then if I want to remove it, or when I want to remove it, I can do that easily without any residue being left. Now the residue, there is some left, but only on the material that you actually spray it to. So I always spray it to my template, so when I peel it off of this, there's no residue left on the cardstock. So the first thing I'm going to do, the lid on this is a little bit wobbly at the moment, so I'm just going to be careful with that, is just lightly spray the back of my template there. You don't need a lot, it's just enough to hold everything in place. And as I said, this is actually only just big enough, so I can just about see my template through the back of the cardstock there. I've just printed it onto my normal copy paper that I've got at home in my printer. Lay that down and hopefully that will just fit the template there. You don't need to print the templates onto an expensive material or a cardstock because usually we just follow them, cut them up and then throw them away. By using the repositionable spray, that does mean that I can peel off my template and I can reuse that on other pieces of cardstock later on. Now I'm going to come in with my trimmer. You can use scissors for this if you prefer because there's quite nice and easy cuts, but because they're straight I prefer to use my trimmer and get nice right angles. Now obviously I've got some sticky on my paper there where I didn't cover over with the green cardstock, so just being careful in my trimmer. And let's cut along all four of the sides. Now you'll notice with this one, usually we have score lines marked with dotted lines or dashed lines. With this template, for whatever reason that hasn't happened, so you'll just need to follow this video to gauge where the dotted lines are. It's really simple. So first of all, as always, just cut around the edge of the template, the outer edge, and that should be a solid line, which it is. And then I'm going to cut away quite simply the areas that say cut away. Now you may actually find this is easier to do with a pair of scissors because we've got diagonals in there. We also don't want to be cutting all the way through. We just want to cut this area out here, here and here. So just following the lines there. There's one, and then up to top. And lastly this piece. There we go. Okay, so I'll pop them to the side, but because that's my green cardstock, I usually keep that. It's going to go back in my scraps box then, so I can reuse it another time. Then I need to bring in my scoring tool. Now it may be that you prefer to use something like a scoreboard. I really love to use my trimmer for this because I can still keep my nice right angles, and I'm going to use the scoring tool on my trimmer. So that means lining up my score line the same way as I would if I was about to trim it. Then rather than using this orange one, I'm going to lift that up, put that out of the way. I'm going to use the white one instead. This is just going to score through both the template and also the cardstock underneath. So I usually push down quite hard and I go over a few times just to make sure I get through both of those layers. Now turn that over and just double check that you've got your score lines. We can see those there quite easily. So now we can remove our template. You just gently peel that off, and as I say, the residue should be on the material that you sprayed it onto, not on your cardstock. if you have any residue left on your cardstock, a really good tool to use is this little tool from Craft Stash. It's an adhesive eraser. It looks mucky. It's just a piece of rubber, but it's a special rubber that will remove any dried glue. So also if you glue areas and you've got little glue dots or splashes or any strings or anything like that, it's really good for just removing those for you. I don't need to do that on this one, but it's a good tip in case you do have residue somewhere. So now all we need to do is fold this. Now I'm going to keep the square to the bottom right and fold the left hand triangle over. That's going to form my first side, and then I'm also going to fold this one down like so, and you should end up with this little pocket here like so. And it's simply, the card base is simply this, so you can lift up and reveal your message inside. Now if you wanted to make this into a gift card holder, all you'd need to do is apply a line of adhesive, I'd say something like a wet glue or a very thin double-sided tape along this edge. Close that, and then you've got a tab for popping in your gift card, and this can fold down there. You can use a wrap, a piece of string, ribbon, twine, even a magnet or a little button or something to hold that down if you wanted to too. But we're just going to leave it so it just pops open as you open the card up or take it out of the envelope. So just to decorate this, I did mention about sentiment. I'm going to use, let's use Happy Mother's Day. Now I did find myself a little circle die that should perfectly fit on there, so I'm just going to die cut that out, and then I'm going to cut down some of these pattern paper pieces to perfectly fit my triangles. And the best way to do that is to use your template again as a guide rather than using your card base, because you could cut these down ever so slightly smaller to the size you want and then stick them onto your pattern paper and cut around them. So here's my pattern paper cut out ready. I'm just going to use a wet glue to adhere these mats and layers to the card base. I'm going to leave the inside of the card that lovely green. It's almost like a lime green. It's a really pretty colour, and it just works so well with the leaves that are on this pattern paper. Like I say, this is a Die Cutting Essentials printable paper. So if you buy the magazine, you'll find a link to the downloads there. You may also find them on Craftworld, so have a search in the search bar in the Inspiration Gallery for Die Cutting Essentials and see what you can find there. But if not, there's lots of other downloadables and printables that you'll find on Craftworld. So I'm going to pop those two there, and I've left this plain and green because I'm just going to pop this message on the inside, but I want it so that you can just see a peek of it, but you kind of have to open it to see it exactly. I might actually put it in the middle so you really don't see much of it at all. You have to open it up to reveal the rest of the message. So this could be really fun if it's something like a baby gender reveal or a wedding save the date, something like that, just to give a hint to the message inside. Actually, it's all covered over. So there's a really fun little pocket card that you can create. You can make this so that it's a card that stands up by itself with a back, but as you see there, the base triangle there does ensure that it holds itself up anyway, so you don't need to worry about that if you don't want to. Alternatively, you could simply decorate the middle and put a message on the back instead. So that template is free for you to download on Craftworld now. Have a go at this. Also have a go with it in different orientations and directions too. I'd love to see what you make of it and all the different ways you can create this template in the Inspiration Gallery.